Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with their great idea in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Rita Zietsma. Rita is a photographer, teacher, and designer who specializes in creating compelling messages through visual images with lasting impact, and joins us from Burlington, Ontario. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Rita Zietsma.
Thank you so much, Trish. It's amazing to be on here. Finally, we've been chatting about this for a while, so thank you.
We have indeed. And you know, I must start by full disclosure. You did some awesome photos for me, which are currently on my website. So thank you so much for that. So I've actually experienced some of your brilliance and magic. So we can speak from the heart, which is really kind of nice.
Awesome.
Now, I know you were a graphic designer as a corporate leader, and at one time, photography was your hobby. How did your passion eventually become a business? Because, you know, everybody talks about the side hustle that becomes a flourishing and very successful company. So how did that happen for you?
Yeah, actually, my first career was a teacher. I was teaching grade 7, 8, and then I taught high school. I taught in Australia for a couple of years as well. And when I came back from Australia, I knew that teaching wasn't my ultimate path. So I decided to waitress for a while, and everybody that came in, I was like, "What do you do? What do you do? What's your career?" Just to see what was out there. And actually, one of the waiters I worked with at the time was a graphic designer, and I didn't even know what that was. So he told me what that was, and it was back in the days of film. So people had said, "Why don't you try photography?" And I said, "I don't think that that's a lucrative way to make money." And at the
Right,
time, it wasn't a thing like it is now with
right.
online presence. So I went back to school at the age of 30 and got my graphic design diploma and started working in the corporate world. I started working for a magazine company and then switched over to a marketing team in corporate, and just worked with them, knowing that photography was still always a passion. So I started that as a side hustle, just as a way to make some extra money, be able to travel a little bit more, and just slowly started building that side hustle. And then I saw the writing on the wall in corporate. Our team went from 12 to 10 to 8, and we were just continually going down. So I knew my time was around the corner.
Sure.
And so I just started stashing cash, working really hard, learning the industry side of business, not just the photography, but how to run a business. And 2 years later, it was my time on the chopping block, and it was the biggest gift ever. And I took off full time photography.
You know, that's really wonderful that you're able to share that with our viewing and listening audience, because you know what? I think we've all been in situations where we've been in corporate and we see the downsizing, you know, we see things changing. There's a transition happening. And maybe just as much now as, you know, when you and I were in corporate, because things are moving at lightning speed. So how wonderful that you're giving people the positive hope that, you know what, there is life after corporate, right? Because when that happens, it's such a big shock.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned in your guest blog is that you traveled to 30 countries throughout your life. Now, maybe you can share with us how have you been able to sort of skip the globe and take photos as a hobby and really be able to pull on that experience as a business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in university and 10 years out of university, I was in the Canadian Naval Reserve. And that afforded me a couple different trips. I was actually in 1988. I'm dating myself now. In 1988, the Canadian Navy decided that women were now allowed on board ship. So what they did was they took female reservists, 13 of us from all the different units across Canada, and they put us on an all-male ship. For the first time ever. And we sailed from Halifax across the ocean on a NATO expedition with 6 other countries. So I saw a couple different countries that way. I also did the backpacking Europe thing after university with some girlfriends. So that, of course, was a lot of countries in Europe. I've done a cruise, which was a couple different countries. And then, like I said, I taught in Australia. And when I flew to Australia, I was like, that was one long
Long
flight
trip.
back in 1998. So I took the long road home. I took 6 months to get back home to Canada, and I just traveled. I went to Thailand. I traveled all through Africa, different countries. Went back up to Europe and then back to Canada. And then since then, I now meet up with different photography groups and we do different trips. I was in Iceland last year. I've got another Africa trip coming up this summer.
Oh, that's exciting.
Pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now, okay, photography has changed a lot because I remember taking a photography course when I was doing my, artistic background in those days, I used my dad's camera. It was like such a big deal, the 35 millimeter with the big lens. And of
Yes.
course, right now everybody's got a phone. And I mean, some of these phones can do some pretty amazing things. But when was the first time that you actually had an opportunity to create a relationship with the camera?
Oh my gosh. In grade 4, my mom bought me a tiny little, it wasn't even 35 mil, it was the 125, the skinny film
Skinny one, yeah.
with the flash cube on top.
Top, yeah.
I just remember loving it. And then in
Yeah.
high school, I remember submitting images for photo competitions. Always drawn to portraiture, but I love landscape as well. And I feel like it's always been a part of me. And even when we travel, my friends always say to me, even going on a hike, we like hiking with you because you point out stuff nobody else sees.
Sees, yeah, that's true.
So
It's having the photographer eye, right?
yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
that's a little bit different, and you're more a little bit more, observant for sure than anything else, right? Which makes it really kinda cool.
yeah.
Now, listen, things in film have changed a lot, and
Mhm.
I know that I'm sure your camera is now digital, right? Like, you've got a really great digital camera, and we don't use traditional film anymore.
Yeah.
So, and you help folks like me who maybe have a passion for photography, and you say, okay, I'll teach you how to use that. Is it 35 millimeter cameras that you teach people to use, or is it their iPhone or their camera on their phone?
I have not done an iPhone camera course before, so no, not yet. But the 35 millimeter became a digital DSLR. So, and the old SLR became a DSLR, which is digital SLR,
Right.
which was the equivalent of the 35 mil. But that DSLR has even gone by the wayside for mirrorless cameras. So it makes the camera body smaller,
Ah,
and there are way more bells and whistles in a mirrorless. So I don't even have the DSLR anymore. We've gone to mirrorless. I've got 2 mirrorless bodies. I do
mhm.
see a future of, even though I just spent money on a 600 mil lens for Africa, I do see the future in the photography on the phone is just becoming so incredible. I think there will be a day when this big, heavy, expensive gear is gone and we're using phones.
Yeah, because it was really interesting is technology is moving at leaps and bounds. Does it mean that you, as the actual photographer, how do you keep up? How do you keep up with all these changes?
It's tough. There is learning all the time. And now with AI, right? You can get a headshot with AI. You don't need a photographer. But I do have people coming to me saying, you know what, I played around with AI and it's not quite there yet with that perfect headshot. But I think what AI misses is the human connection. So like you and like I bring out expression during your personal branding session, and AI can't replicate that genuine,
Right.
authentic expression
Yeah.
nor the experience. So a lot of what I do too is experiential photography where you're coming in for a full experience and you're
Right.
walking out empowered before you've even seen the final images.
Right.
A lot of the women are coming in for my beautiful Beyond 40 project and they're even saying it wasn't even so much about the images, it was about the power of sharing my story, it was about being seen, it was about taking
Yeah.
a day for me, it
Right.
was about the experience of it, and AI will never be able to replace
Right,
that.
that's very true. And so let's talk a little bit about your empowerment project because you've taken some of the experience that you had in the magazine world, added your photography experience, and now you're offering something to women in business who can participate. So I think you might have a magazine handy. So why don't you give us a quick
Yeah.
look at the cover? Let's
Yeah.
have a look at the cover. And that's pretty awesome. I mean, I love that you're on the cover and you're calling it to give us the title.
Yeah, so it's called Beautiful Beyond 40, and it's a project I started last year, actually on International Women's Day. And it's not just women in business, it's all women.
Right.
There are, a number of women in our age category, a little bit older, that maybe we're still stay-at-home moms.
Right.
One lady called me and said, I love your project about telling stories and empowerment, but I don't really have a story. And I said, your mom, you raised 4 incredible boys.
Kids. Yeah.
You have a story. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Everybody has a
great.
story, right?
Yeah. So what I did was the project, the intent of it was to empower people, women, to make them feel seen, to take a day for themselves, because women are all about their kids, their spouses, their work. So it was about taking a day for themselves, capturing them as they want to be seen, and included professional hair and makeup on the day of the session. And we spent a few hours capturing women. And then I put this beautiful magazine together,
Right.
just showing all these different women, like in their stories, a piece of their story in the magazine.
Right.
And there are 40 women in the magazine, of course. The oldest participant in the project, I just have to give a shout out to, I call her Aunt Lil, 102 years old.
Wow.
And again, just proof that we're never too old to be seen and captured, despite the wrinkles, the gray hair, everything else. We've earned those.
Right. We should celebrate them.
Let's celebrate them, and let's put
Yeah.
women our age in the media, because we always see the 20-year-olds.
That's right.
And this idea of perfection is non-existent. So I
Yeah.
just want to put out there and share with the world and start that conversation that ageism is okay, and let's celebrate our beauty at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 102.
Yeah. No matter what age, right? Now, how
Absolutely.
long have you been in business, Rita?
I just started my 9th year of full-time
Right.
business. I was
Right.
6 years side hustle before that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
6 years side hustle, 9 years full time.
Yeah.
If there was something that you can, looking back on the 9 years of full time, is there something that you can share with our viewing and listening audience who may be in a similar situation, or maybe they're just starting their journey and they say, okay, like how is it resilience? Is it courage? Is there a skill that you can say that, or a personality trait that you've had that's carried you through that time?
Yeah, that's a tough one. The first thing I would have said was I should have done it sooner.
Yeah.
So for those people who are thinking about it, do it sooner. I know it's never too late. And I photographed women who come in at the age of 60 or 70 and they're just starting their business. And I'm
Right.
like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been further along in a certain sense had I started 10 years younger, because your energy isn't what it was. But it's all great. I think discipline, self-discipline is a big one, and
Mhm.
connection. Again, connecting with women like yourself and other women. I was fortunate enough to find another photographer friend who lives in Wichita, and we both have a Dutch background, which is kind of funny. So we connect on the phone regularly because our businesses are super similar. And just having a body of people to connect with to talk about your business is key in surviving solopreneurship.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, I love that you've mentioned, so the connection that you have with your friend in Wichita is obviously almost like it's almost like, we'll call it a mentorship.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a role model? Has there ever been somebody in your life that, walked the steps before you and you've said, yeah, wow, that's pretty cool?
Definitely, there are women that I look up to. Elaine Slatter was one of them. She just offered so much to women in business, and she went from nothing, came to Canada with nothing, and became the CEO of a big company. Mark Hashi
Mm.
as well. She's 76 and just continues to give back and give back and give back.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's so many women out there in business that just are amazing. And even, you know what, my mom raised 7 kids. She was not a business person per se. She was forced to drop out of school in grade 8 to help support her family. So not even high school graduate, and yet graduate. And my dad ran his own business, but mom ran it with him. She
Right.
did the back end part of it while he did
Right.
the labor and the office stuff. And she ran a household of 7 kids. Um, so I think she ran her own business by doing that.
I was just going to say that sounds like a business in itself, doesn't it?
There are days I think mom still has more energy than me, and she's now 82. So
Yeah, so true. Isn't that so
yeah,
true? But the women that came before us really are role models to us,
yeah,
right?
So true.
And and I love your point. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, contributing to the family business,
Mhm.
or whether you're in the forefront as a corporate CEO, we're all making sacrifices to pave the way for the next generation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So looking forward for you, you've shared with us a little bit about the journey of how you got to where you are. And I know that, when you're a solopreneur, you're always looking ahead to the future because we need to plan, right? So where do you see yourself in the next 3 years in terms of a business owner? Is there a particular place or a pinnacle in your career that you're trying to achieve?
I'd like to retire at 65.
Yeah, well, that's so true. An exit strategy is really important.
I don't think I'll ever put my camera down. When I say retire, I just mean I'd like to wake up in the morning, and not feel like, okay,
Compelled to work
here we go
today.
again. I love what I do. I love the connection with women, and I don't want that ever to stop. And I say women, I capture men too, and I actually love capturing men as well.
Sure.
So I think for me as a business owner, I just have to evolve with the way the world is going because I'm
Yeah.
a technology-based business.
Right.
So I actually am going to an iPhone photography conference in February.
Cool.
It's an online conference, but I have to stay ahead of technology.
Yeah.
I have to learn AI and see how I can fit into that.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that videography will have to come into it at some
Sure.
point as well,
Yeah, for sure.
just to keep relevant. So
Yes, and that's so true. I love your point. We have to change with the times
yes,
and change with the industry and all of the various things that come into that industry. In
yeah,
order to be relevant, we have to continue to evolve as business owners. So that's a
absolutely.
really good point for people to consider.
The other shift I've made, I just wanted to throw in there, is I did a lot of networking previously and I still do, but I've shifted some of my networking to charity networking. And yeah, of course, it's for the purpose of meeting more people and like-minded business owners. But I feel at this stage in my career, I might not have the time to always give, but I have the financial now to give. And
Right,
it's amazing being in a room full of people who are all in the same boat that are just wanting to give back to their city.
right.
100 Women Who Cares is the last one I just joined. And 100 women get together 4 times a year and contribute to one charity in our local community. It's $100 each, so $10,000 gets donated 4 times a year from these women, and that's where you're meeting incredible like-minded women,
Sure.
and out of that, men as well. Some men have come, and I go to other charity networking things. Um, I don't just network with women; it's everybody, and I think that is the way forward in business as well.
Yeah,
Is
for sure.
contributing to your community.
The community impact and the give back to the community, I think that is something that we do when we get to a certain age and stage in our careers. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's no different than this platform, right? I mean, I started this platform as a passion project to give back to people like you,
Mhm.
because I know I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. I know what it's like to start.
Yeah.
When I started my first business, do you want to talk about technology? There weren't even any cell phones way back then.
I know, right?
I had an all streets map and a paper journal. Like, those were my tools. And when, there was only desktop computers, we didn't even have
Mhm.
laptops. So when you think about having to evolve and change with the business climate, I mean, sometimes you really begin to wonder when the end is, like, when will it ever change? I don't think it will ever stop changing. And so we need to evolve with that for sure.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we get folks to share 3 words of advice.
Mm.
And so, what I'd like you to do is give us a little sense as to why these 3 words are important to you in your business. And they are acceptance, openness, and love.
Yeah, thank you. I love those words for multiple reasons. Of course, it's a very vulnerable place to be in front of the camera. So
Mhm.
every single client I deal with comes in, and one of the first things they say is, "I hate having my photo done," and everyone feels the need to put up that disclaimer. So acceptance, openness, and love are my key words when they come in because I can truly capture your essence when you're open to give me who you are.
Oh, that's so
And
true.
that comes with just accepting. So I say, even if it's for half an hour today, an hour today, the 4 hours you're with me, whatever time slot it is, pretend that that thought doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Fully accept who you are today. And this is what you've been given. I mean, we have been created a certain way. We didn't go and pick that face off the shelf and I'll pick that hair. Like, this is what we've been given. So, and for a very short time on this earth. So let's accept what we are, be open to the process of living and living joyfully. And for me, my clients being captured, and then love. Because if you love yourself, then you can be free of all the stuff and go out and love others and serve others too.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing not only some really practical things about your journey as an entrepreneur, but giving people some food for thought, because you are in a business where you capture, as you say, the essence of the person. And I must honestly say, Rita, with having had a session with you, the environment that you create helps people with the openness and the acceptance. So thank you on behalf of all of the folks that you have photographed so far. You create a very welcoming environment to give people an opportunity to step out of their comfort zone.
Thank you. Thanks, Trish.
So to you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. And if you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Rita's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series, and if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online for other inspirational features. Subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.